Okay, our 1 minute is up. Now I'd like to hand it over to our table topics master, Glynis Talent.
Thank you, Steve. Today's table topics are going to be around change. So did we lose Ross for good? Okay, looks like he's rejoining. Sorry. It is around change. I recently read a book. It was a short little book. It was called Who Moved My Cheese? I've heard about it for years, but just had the opportunity a couple weekends ago to actually read it. And it's a little story. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, with only 4 characters, 2 mice and 2 little people. And they had change forced upon them. And the mice, with their simple minds, adapted quite readily to that change and changed their course. However, the little people had a little more complication because they have complex minds and they had to think more about it. So in line with that, I have a list of questions or statements that I'm asking you to describe something, all revolving around change. So who would like to be our first participant?
I'll go, Glynis.
And what number would you like?
I will take number 7.
Describe a time when you had to lead a team that was resistant to change. And if you never led a team that was resistant to change, think about a time when you were resistant to change and how did it go?
And that was not left a team, but led a team, right? Led a team.
Yeah, the first one was led a team, but just if you haven't led a team, then just think about a time when you actually were resistant to change.
Madam Table Topics Master and fellow Toastmasters. Question is, when have I led a team that was resistant to change? Well, I have led teams before, but I don't think anyone on the team was as resistant to change as me. So I think I'll talk about when I was resistant to change. There's a lot of changes I was resistant to. I'll give you, I guess, the big one that happened in my career. That was, we had a homegrown computer-aided design system. And Ford wanted to move away from the homegrown design system to go to one that they could just purchase, which makes a lot of sense. So they had a committee, and the committee chose the worst possible system that they could have chosen. They chose a company that was going out of business, and their justification for choosing that company was because they were ready to go out of business. They were very malleable, and they would do whatever Ford wanted them to do. Well, that was true. They would do whatever Ford wanted them to do, whether it made sense or not. And the system was terrible. And I resisted it. And you get in trouble for resisting change, and I got in trouble for it. But eventually, though, there was no other way. That was the way the company was going. So we moved our software into that bad software. And then it wasn't too long. Actually, I would say Ford was looking for an excuse to get out of that software without admitting that they did something wrong. And then GM bought that company. And when GM bought the company, Ford said, okay, we're getting out of it because we can't be controlled by GM. That is my story, Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Steve. Did you learn anything from the experience?
I must have. I must have, but I can't think what I learned.
Okay. All right, do we have another participant?
Glynis, I'll go.
Oh, got 2. Okay, I heard Nagam first, so Nagam and then Dan. Okay, Nagam, which one, like 1 through 10?
I'll take 10.
When is it a good time to resist change?
Madam Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, I've been asked the question, when is it a good time to resist change? I really liked Steve's question. I have a lot of examples of when I led a team who was resistant to change. However, there are times when change isn't a good idea. And the only thing I can think of on this spot is if it contradicts with somebody's values, maybe somebody's beliefs or religious beliefs. But most of the time, change is feared just because it's out of the norm. And it seems like something that is not easy to get to, not something that I could do comfortably and be able to excel at. And that's why people are afraid of change. However, if we all give whatever it is that we are asked to do a chance, most of the time we would be able to learn from it. I just read a quote that I actually sent to my staff that don't remember the exact words, but it says, the mountain is there so you can climb it, learn from it, and then look back and say, you got experience. And I will send you the quote once I find it, because it really resonated with me. And it just reminds me, and I keep reminding my staff, that change is not always a bad thing. It just takes us out of our comfort zone. However, for me personally, if it does contradict with my core values, which I like to, keep personally, and especially when it contradicts with my religious beliefs, that's when change is somewhat of an issue for me. Back to you, Madam Tabletops Master.
Thank you, Nagam. Good answer. All right, moving on to Dan.
I'll take number 2. I'll do 2.
Why do you feel it's important to change? Because we know change is inevitable. So why do you think it's important to adapt to it? I guess would be the right question.
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. I've been asked the question, why is it important to change or adapt? And I guess that's a good question. Yeah, a lot of people, as you indicated, and as I think we all know, are pretty resistant to change because people get comfortable in the way that they do things. And they've done them for a certain amount of time and they're happy with it. And it doesn't take a lot of energy or effort to change. It's very simple to do the same thing over and over again. But when things change all the time, when it comes to work, things change. And you might be in the same job technically for a long period of time, but the way you do things at your work could change. I mean, you could use different computer systems like Steve had talked about, or you move to a different location or office. So in that circumstance, you have to be certainly very malleable and just be able to shift to that other circumstance. I mean, it may not necessarily become easy, but it's also important. And also, yeah, even in people's personal lives, they change. I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Now I'm married and I have a house and a cat, and I have to adjust to their whims, especially the cat's whims. And if I didn't, then he would get really crabby, and we can't have that. So we have to be able to change and adjust to different circumstances in our lives. Back to you, Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Dan. Again, a very good answer. I have to admit, after reading the book, I'm going to do a presentation on it. Actually, I found a video of the animation. I'm going to show it to my team this Friday. And we're going to do an activity based around change where I'm going to split them into 2 groups and give them the task of creating a product. I believe I'm going by memory now. But halfway through it, I'm going to change some of the team members. They don't know this yet. So, and then we're going to discuss how they felt about the change and what they learned from that. So it's kind of my way of helping my team to deal with change. And we are ever changing. So it's really a good skill to have to be able to adapt to change.
You know, Glennis, there's another book by the same author. What is it called? Leaving the Maze, I think. I haven't read it. I have it at home. I'm
So it's
waiting
after me,
for it.
okay.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Is it just a short?
Yes, just a short. Love it.
Good. Because that one I read in one night. So that's what I call a short book, and it's actually good to do. I've got other books I haven't read that I've had for years. Okay, who else would like to?
Oh, just, Glynis, you could practice that speech here, you know.
Well, it's going to be Friday, so.
Oh, okay.
And it's really not a speech. It's more of an activity, and they're going to watch the video.
Oh, okay.
Are we all gonna go, Glennis, I guess?
I hope so.
I'll go.
What number would you like?
Is 3 still available?
3 is still available. Why do you think it's so hard for people to change?
Dear Table Topics Master and fellow Toastmasters, I was asked a question, why is it hard for people to change? I would like to second what Dan said, which is people are comfortable doing what they are used to do. And it's stepping out of that comfort zone that makes people resistant to change. We get used to the things that we do on a regular basis. We know what to expect. And when you know what to expect, you are not really taking a risk anymore. But anytime there is a change of expectations, now there is a risk being taken, and we don't know what the outcome is going to be as a result of that risk. So resistance to change is well known in all fields, be it politics, be it medicine. It's called the inertia, resistance to change. And obviously, there are goods and bads to it. The bad side is that if we're always resistant to change, then we are not really discovering new opportunities, and we may be missing out on things that can potentially change our lives to the better. But at the same time, like I said, there is less risk being taken with changing things. Therefore, sometimes when the risk is very big, potentially it's best not taken. So one has to weigh how big the risk is and proceed from there. Back to you, Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Maha. A well thought out answer. Okay. Who else?
I'll go next if Shehu, you're not. Are you going, Shehu?
Yeah, after you, Rose, that's fine.
All right. What numbers do we have left? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you, Ross. Glynis, you're muted.
Oh, yeah, that's the problem. Okay, I'm talking and I'm muted. Okay, so we have everything except 2, 3, 7, and 10.
Okay, I'll take 9.
What things are helpful when adapting to change? Or rather, what things can we do to help us adapt to change would be.
Madam Table Topic Master, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. Change is something that's inevitable, and that's something that we have to prepare for and be ready for. And the question I was asked is what things can help us adapt to change? So first thing I would say is attitude. And attitude has to be malleable so that you're expecting that you're not rigid and then you deal with things as they come. One of the things that's interesting is they showed a graph whenever we come up with a new methodology or something, and it's basically a bell-shaped curve. And then if you see there are early adapters, then there's the peak, then there are late followers. So anytime there's a change, there's people that are always ready to jump on and take on the new things. Then there are people that just wait and say, okay, let's see if this thing really works out, or if it's another fad, or if it's going to work out or not. And those are generally the middle of the road, and they adapt. They're called bandwagon people. So they jump on the bandwagon when they know things are going good. Then there are people who are resistant to change, and they're the ones that are late, and then they adapt later. So things that help us is analyzing what stage we're in. And at least for me, if I see something that's early, because a lot of new ideas come that don't pan out to be something great. So I'm not one of the early ones, but I'm definitely not one of the later ones. So things that help me is recognizing if the change is actually good and if it's making an improvement and if it's better than the previous item that you're changing from. So those are my 3 criteria. And as long as those criteria are met, then I'm ready for change. Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Ross. I do have to apologize. Someone from work was pinging me, and that probably distracted me from unmuting before. So now it looks like I see Shehu, so Shehu must be volunteering.
Okay, what do we have there?
Just pick a number and I'll pick the closest.
7.
To be easier. 7?
Yes.
Okay, so I will choose number 8 because 7 has been taken.
Okay.
Change is inevitable. Do you think all change is good?
Madam Table Topic Master, fellow Toastmaster. We don't have guests, so. Okay, change is inevitable. Do I think that all change or changes are good? I'll say no. It all depends on the change that we are talking about. As people, if you have kids, we want to be careful because there are peer pressure out there where you have your teenagers or people that are young go out with their friend and friend try to persuade them to, like, for example, take smoke, or just take a drink for a change, or maybe take a drug or something that we all know that teenagers go through. So I'll say no, not all changes I'll consider good, but it all depends on what direction we are looking at. Are we talking about changes or they are good? Let me put it this way, there are good changes and there might be something that are bad that I might not want to be. A very good example is going out on vacation with friends where they are doing something that you don't want to do. They are persuading you that, oh, just do that for a change. And this is something that is against your principle as a person, or that is not of integrity. Just because people that know you are not around, you want compromise just to do that. So in that case, I'm not going to do that. But the other way is something that is good when they're persuaded, oh, why don't you try buying this stock? I got it and it's nice. And you are not the kind of person that take a risk and you just decide, oh, let me take a risk. And at the end of the day, you took that risk and it was profitable and you made something. So not all changes are good. So back to you. I can't say the time. What was the timer?
You're red, so you must. be-
Okay.
Okay.
Back to you.
All right, I think everyone has gone. Yes, that's true. So, Steve, if you want to just throw out a number for me.
Sure. How about I'll give you number 6?
Number 6. Describe a time when you had to help someone else adapt to change. Interesting question. So the question that's been selected for me is to describe a time when I had to help someone else adapt to change. And honestly, that's the reason why I'm going through this exercise, because I have a whole team of people that I need to help adapt to some changes that we have. We have a couple of teams that are going to merge. And there's always some resistance, no matter what type of change you do. And especially when it seems like your way of doing things is being threatened, or this change is going to impact you negatively. So my thought was to try to understand the team and understand why people resist changes, which is kind of why I'm going through this exercise and why I read the book, because I knew that this was something that I was going to have to address. So I haven't actually had to do this yet, but this is my way of handling it from the start, is to kind of get the team used to change is coming. This is how you should act to change, kind of with the examples and the exercise, and just to get them get a feel so they're thinking about it. So when the change actually happened, maybe a light bulb will come on and go, oh, yeah, I don't want to be like, I think it was him or Ha, and the Who Moved My Cheese story. I want to be the one that actually was able to adapt to change. And I am the tabletop risk master, so it is 11 after. So Steve, I don't know if you want to continue or move on with the evaluation portion.
Oh, well, there's no odd body else to go, right?
True.
Yeah, so that decides it. We will move on to the evaluation portion.
Okay.
And I would like to introduce our general evaluator, Dan.
All right. Thank you, Steve, Mr. Toastmaster, for the evening. So now is the evaluation portion of the meeting, the second half, or last 20 minutes or so of the meeting, I should say. It's not really half. But anyway, for this portion, as we all know, as we've done before, I will introduce the evaluator for any speeches. I will introduce the timer to give his or her report, as well as the counter and grammarian, then give my assessment, then hand it back over to the Toastmaster. With that being said, I will just start and ask Maha if she could give the evaluation for Ross's speech. So Maha, if you would.
Thank you, Dan. Ross, you again delivered an effective speech today. In terms of how your presentation was put together, I thought everything flowed very smoothly. Your introduction, you started with an eye-opener by asking a question, and you listed the objective of your presentation very clearly from the beginning. I like how in the body of your presentation, you gave a comparison, or you started with a comparison with tennis, because it kind of gave those who are not familiar with, I think it was Pitball. So whoever was not familiar with that was able to compare it to something that they were familiar with. At least that's how it felt to me. And you clearly gave the components of this game, how do you play it, and when you demonstrated each part, I think all of that flowed very smoothly and nicely together. And at the end of your presentation, you gave us a reason why we should consider playing this game or this sport. In terms of other things in your presentation, clarity was excellent. Everything was clear. You used vocal variety when it was needed. Your gestures and demonstrations, all of that was clear and very, very smart way how you had just your presentation portion and then the whole body portion to show us exactly what's going on with the whole body. Obviously, you were very comfortable with the whole presentation and you were comfortable with the ins and outs of the sport. And you also showed very clearly your interest in the sport, and that made us, or at least me, feel that it would be something that I would be interested in trying myself. Things that you could improve in or things I challenge you on, I really thought you did a pretty good job. I think it would just be nice to try playing that sport in person. So maybe at the picnic or something like that. Back to you, general evaluator.
All right, thank you, Maha. That was very thorough and an accurate assessment of Ross's speech. And yes, it was a very interesting speech, and I think we learned a little bit about the sport. And I played it once. It's quite the experience. But it's tough to do in these colder climates. You can't play in January. Well, you can, but it's very uncomfortable. Anyway, next up is the timer. So Steve, could you give your timing assessment of everyone's speeches today?
Thank you, Dan. So our odd counter didn't show, so I also did the odd counting in Grammarian too. So I'll give all three. So first for timing, Ross's speech was 6 minutes. When you first stopped the first time, it was 6:42, and then when you stopped the second time, it was 7:05. So both were within your time limit. Then for the table topics, I was 2 minutes and 11. Nagam was 1 minute 51. Dan was 1:40. Maha was 2:03. Ross was 1:44. Shehu was 2:33, but I know he couldn't see the timing. And then Glynis was 1:55. And then for the evaluation, Maha was 2:30. Then for ahs and ums, I didn't catch any for Ross. Of course, I didn't catch any for me because I didn't do, but I did know that I gave the word of the day once. Nagam, I was counting. I didn't find anything wrong. I did appreciate that Nagam used the word resonated. I thought that was a good word. And then Dan had also a word of the day. I didn't catch any crutch words. Maha just had in the table topic just had 2 uhs, and Ross in the table topic just had 3 uhs and 1 word of the day. And Shehu just had 1 ah, and Glynis was all clean in her table topic. And then the evaluation, Maha had 5 ahs and 1 Xerox. And okay, and I gave you, and then for grammarian, I noted that Nagam had the word resonated. In Ross's speech, Ross, you just said 2 of the same sort of thing you said, more, the second one was most, I can't read my writing, but it was more, and then it was a ER word. So like you didn't need the word more. So I can't read what it was, but it was more something. And then you said the same thing, more something like maybe more faster or something like that, but it wasn't that, but I can't read my writing. Okay. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Steve, for those evaluations. So now I'll just give a quick assessment of the meeting overall before I hand it back over to Steve. So first of all, Steve, thanks for taking on numerous roles this evening. You know, I guess sometimes people have something last minute that pops up that doesn't allow them to come to the meeting, or, you know, we just might have a couple of loose ends that we need to tie up, and you jumped right in for that. So that's much appreciated as well. I like how you started off the meeting with an anecdote. That doesn't always happen with everyone who is Toastmaster, myself included. And it's always kind of nice to kind of have that nice segue into the meeting and kind of put everyone at a nice, easy, frame of mind before the meeting. So that's great. Glennis, I liked the theme of the meeting of change and then the appropriate word of the day. So malleable is not a word I use very often, but maybe I'll try to sneak it in there a little bit more, just to kind of mix things up. So that's great, and very thought-provoking questions as well, as we are in this season of change, I guess, with autumn and stuff. Whenever that comes here, still like 75 and sunny here, but eventually it will come. But anyway, yeah, and as mentioned, yeah, Ross, really liked your speech. Pickleball is a very fun sport, and yeah, it is a mix between table tennis or ping pong and actual tennis, and it's, yeah, a lot of fun, very interesting. Yeah, I like how you use props as well, which doesn't always happen for speeches. Maha, very thorough evaluation as mentioned as well, so it gives Ross some things that he did well and some areas for improvement, and that's great. One thing I will notice too, and I noticed this of myself, and it's just something to keep in mind, is I often start sentences and even whole thoughts with using the word so, and it's something that has been told to me, and I try to catch myself, and I don't always do it, but it's something I think we want to be mindful of, because I think it's kind of like a crutch word when you start off your sentence with the word so. Like if I'm at a meeting, oftentimes I start with, so this is what's going on and such, and it's something I've been trying to cut back on a little bit, but it's very common, but it's something that, along with the word is something that I'm working on. But other than that, I think we did great, especially time-wise. We're ahead of the 8 ball. And with that, good meeting overall, and I'll hand it back to the Toastmaster, Steve.
Great, thank you, Dan. So do we have any success stories that anyone would like to report?
Steve, before you get to that,
Yes.
wondering doing the outside stuff. Is that and I thought about that. I was thinking about skipping it. Was it? I don't know. Just wanted to get the feedback if anybody else wanted to try that, because it's always good to have a backup. But the cell phone was a backup. I wasn't planning on using that at all. So, does it add anything, or should that have been just done just as effectively on the inside? Because the demo part was just small, and then I probably could have done most of it inside.
I enjoyed seeing the outside.
It was a nice change, actually. It was nice,
Yeah.
especially at the end when you were actually demonstrating. The one thing too, Ross, I forgot to also mention in my comments is when you step back, it was a little bit hard to hear you when you step away from the phone.
Yep, those are supposed to be wireless headphones that work fine inside, but on an outside. So it's just like I checked them out, and that's one of the challenges and stuff like that. So, okay.
So, yeah, I forgot you had headphones on. So you had headphones on, but you had the audio on both devices.
Right. I wasn't planning on doing that because it was just like the headphones also have a mic. So those are noise canceling headphones with a mic on there. They work great inside, but I don't know what happened outside that I just couldn't get them to, couldn't get the mic to work, or couldn't get the audio to work on it.
Yeah. So were you able to hear? Because I still heard an echo. And I was wondering if maybe the volume on the one device that you.
Yeah, towards the end, I had to turn on kind of both, and that's where the echo came on, because
Okay.
turn on the because I couldn't get the thing to work. So
Okay. Yeah, that was the only distracting part was the echo.
All right, and in case if you're interested, they play that inside. So if you're, you know, I know Dearborn Recreation has that on the inside because the courts are so much smaller that they play it inside. So they do have winter places where they play winter for it too.
Okay.
Good, good. Thank you, Ralph. Do we have any success stories to report? Okay, well, I have one success story for the club. We have a new member. And now Dan is not our most distant member. We now have the diva from Mexico. Okay, so I will move into the scheduling.